Alright guys, so to end of this week of standard costing, also the last week, only thing I want to still mention is the discussion and the analysis of variances. So you'll see in the previous example we've calculated a lot of variances, and so once you've calculated the variances, what practically happens out in practice is the variances get calculated, and if a variance is big, and it's all relative depending on the size of a company, someone need to ask himself, well, how did that variance arise? That's the discussion. So for example, we would have to ask our workers, so how did we get a favorable price variance now for metal tubing? Now, I emphasize this a lot. You cannot say that the variance is favorable because we actually paid less than what we budgeted for. I mean, that is obvious. I mean, it would not be favorable if you didn't pay less than what you budgeted for. The question is, what caused you to pay less than what you budgeted for? That's the kind of reasoning that you need to get to. So for example, you could say, well, why did I end up paying less than what I budgeted for? Well, the obvious is that I budgeted incorrectly. So I budgeted too conservatively. So it was easy to, my actual price being better than what I budgeted was easy. So that would be the obvious. The second thing could be that you negotiated a good discount with a specific supplier. Those are all good things. Then the bad thing could be, even though it's a favorable variance, you could have bought a cheap quality material. So you've budgeted a certain quality, but now you actually bought a cheaper quality, and this cheaper quality obviously will decrease the price. So it's good that the price is decreased, but it's bad that you're using cheaper quality metal tubing, so therefore that can have a longer term impact on the company. Alright, so that's sort of the type of reasoning we look for. What caused the price to be favorable? Likewise, here we have an adverse variance for volume variance for metal tubing. So the question is, what caused us to use more metal tubing than what we budgeted? So for example, so it could be that because you use cheaper quality material, that you end up having to use more of that cheaper quality material, so you use more quantity because the material is cheaper, and that's the link between the variances. Here you use cheap material, so the price variance looks good, but if it's cheap material, you're most likely going to end up using more material than you did before, and so you're going to end up with a adverse quantity variance. Okay. Also, another possible reason could be that you have sort of unskilled labor or people that are not familiar with working with the metal tubing, so they end up using more metal tubing than a skilled person, or there could just have been wastage, which causes you to use more metal tubing than what you would have liked to use. Okay, so that kind of thinking is not really something you can study, but that kind of thinking is what you need to think about for the reasons and the discussion of the variances. So it's the same kind of thinking for foam, for labor. Labor is obviously different to material. So again, here we have an adverse variance, which means we paid more per hour than what we would have liked. So what's the possible reason that we could pay more per hour? Well, for one, there could have been a strike to demand for higher wages. So that because of that strike, we end up paying more per hour than we budgeted for. So that's a possible reason why the 44 Rand is now higher than the 40. And then again, here is it's an adverse quantity variance. In other words, people are taking longer than what we would have liked them to take. So that could possibly be we have unskilled labor who doesn't work as efficiently as skilled labor, for example. So they end up taking more hours, and therefore you're going to end up with a adverse variance. Okay, so can you see it is the reason that the rate increased, not that the rate has increased. We know the rate has increased. That's why there's an adverse variance. It's the reason that the rate has increased. Likewise with the quantity variance, it's what's the reason for the quantity being more than what we expected. And so that kind of thinking that we want to see in your discussion of the causes of the variances. Alright, so I hope that gives you an idea of what we expect for discussion. That's essentially what this paragraph is saying over here. And so that ends the lecture, the 7-week lectures. I really hope you enjoyed this course. I certainly enjoyed it. Please, if there's any questions, concerns, please post it on the discussion forums. Please feel free to watch. You're obviously free to watch any video again to recap anything you don't understand. And yeah, and all the best for everything going forward, and especially the final exam for this course. Thanks so much, guys. Cheers. Bye.